You know, the Olympic motto is faster, higher, stronger. And if we don't have all people represented in the stories that we tell, in the policies that we create, then we can't achieve that mission. So it begins with conversations like this.
When you look, though, to a role model, Maya, so you say you saw Michelle Kwan and you saw that she was poised. What was it that you saw that drew you to that?
Even though we weren't in the same discipline of figure skating, the way that she carried herself both on and off the ice was inspiring.
What are your memories of how you were portrayed?
I didn't want to be a mannequin. I wanted to be respected for my sport prowess. I looked at one of those sports encyclopedias describing different athletes, and it said I was very popular in photographed athletes. No mention of the 20 world records and best times. No mention of the 37 national championships. No mention that I dominated my event for 4 years.
If you listen to sports on television, a lot of times you'll hear the men called by their last names, but the women called by their first names. And it's such a subtle thing, and some people would say, well, what difference does that make? How much do you think it's changed?
I think the public is getting very sophisticated. They can tweet and Twitter and say, wait a minute, I want to know about the athlete. I know she's married to a great football player or whatever, but, this is her moment. And so I think, because we have this communication back and forth, that there is pushback when announcers really do the wrong thing. And that would have never happened 30 years ago. The other thing I like to focus on is the transition of athletes out of sport into the next thing. And for women, we found out that 94% of the women that make it in the high echelons of corporations have had a sports background. So if anybody argues about why put women on the field of play, what does that do for the rest of their life? You can just look at corporate America and where we're finding them, leading, fighting their way into elite places. But we still have a long way to go.
I think it's amazing that the Olympic Games has the power to bring people together in the name of sport. Potentially one of the things that can be improved is coverage. For example, the women's hockey team that just won gold, Team USA, they have games that are more than every 4 years. And I think that if they were able to receive more attention, then that could continue to share their incredible stories.
We made a decision that we wanted to really make a difference when it came to gender equality because we believe as a company that there should be equality between women and men, equal representation, equal roles, equal jobs, equal pay. But the reality was it wasn't equal. And what we decided to do was use our voice in advertising as a way to promote gender equality. The confidence drops in puberty among women dramatically, way more than boys. And it's a result of a number of different things. And one of the things is these insidious phrases like, you do that like a girl. 49% of young women drop out of sports in their teen years, which is 6 times more than boys.
Women are very actively engaged in sports. Sports are very important for development, not only for physical development, but also for self-confidence, for body image, for empowerment. Many times comments are gender biased, sexist, or deal with athletes' personal lives, their personal appearance. All the same things that you mentioned, using first names for women, talking about their physical appearance, clothing. It's not only for sports women, it's for women in every field, including those who run for presidency of their countries. So I think it's very important that we keep talking about these things, and it's very important that we keep pushing the agenda forward because we do need to change things. And UNESCO is really trying to do that.
Gender equality by 2030 is what will help the world achieve one of its most ambitious agendas that it's ever put together, which is the 2030 agenda and its 17 goals, which race against poverty, against hunger, against people not being able to get health facilities, women waking up in the morning having to choose whether they're going to buy food for their family or medicine for their sick child. It races against lack of education and lack of leadership opportunities. So this race of gender equality, I think, is worth running, and sport is a way to help us get there faster than ever.
We've been talking a lot about how Portrayal, the impact of the social cost of Portrayal, but in fact there's an economic cost as well.
Women earn an average of 1% of what men earn, according to a recent study by the Global Sports Salary Survey in the elite athlete segment. Neymar, the famous male footballer from Brazil playing in Europe, his 37 million euro contract is almost exactly the same as the combined yearly salary of, wait for it, 1,693 female players from the world's top 7 women's leagues. The marketers who have large advertising budgets are trying to get together to make their adverts help unravel some of the harmful stereotypes that are inadvertently promoted by advertising.
Every business and every organization can decide what can we do about it? What's within our control? What's within our control at D&G is we can have a gender equal workforce. Okay, we have 45% of our workforce is women. In the brand and marketing organization, more than 50% are, and we're about 3 or 5 away from every level being 50-50. So that's a start. That's one piece.
One thing we haven't mentioned during our conversation much is the role of governments and laws and regulation, because I think that plays a huge role in sport. It creates a disabling environment or an enabling environment as far as gender equality is concerned.
I put together a lobby to support Title IX, and the football coaches would call ABC and say, you got to fire her because she's working in Washington. What is she doing? She's disrupting the whole football establishment. Thank goodness we had the leaders we did on the Hill, because they didn't waffle, and Senator Stevens was from Alaska, and the NCAA lobby couldn't really impact him. So the law passed. The law passed, but then athletic directors across the country were saying, well, I went to UCLA and they built Poly Pavilion where we had the greatest basketball teams in the world, but there was no women's locker room. This is going to bankrupt sports in America to have women rushing in. And by the way, women aren't interested in sports on the collegiate level. They just want to go to college to get married. We couldn't overnight have equality. We had to have gradual ways in which these schools could comply so they wouldn't get in trouble.